Good evening, and welcome to the Palace of Auburn Hills, home of the two-time NBA World Champion Detroit Pistons. And this year, home to the 1993 NBA Draft.
June 30th, 1993, the NBA Draft was the epicenter of the basketball world. Thousands of fans packed the arena to witness one of Detroit's own, Chris Webber, achieve the dream of every young player, hearing his name called first in the NBA Draft. But this story isn't just about what's happening, it's about where it's happening. Webber's journey to that podium wasn't just a story of basketball, it was a testament to the talent, grit, and pride of a city that helped shape him. Standing at 6'10" with the athleticism of a guard, Webber was the complete package. He had the power to post up against any defender, the finesse to handle the ball and make plays, and the basketball IQ that made him a nightmare for opposing teams. Born and raised in Detroit, Webber's basketball talent was evident early on. By the time he attended Detroit Country Day High School, he was already the player everyone was talking about. He led Detroit Country Day to 3 consecutive state championships, averaging nearly 30 points and 13 rebounds per game as a senior. His dominance earned him national recognition, including being named the Naismith Prep Player of the Year in 1991, widely recognizing him as the top high school player in the nation. C-Webb's final 4 colleges that he was considering was Michigan State, U of M, Duke, and surprisingly, University of Detroit. Now, I can only imagine that the number 1 player in the country actually stayed to play in the city and how turned up the city would have been. Ultimately, he chose to stay close to home, committing to the University of Michigan alongside fellow Detroiter Jalen Rose. And as time went on, Webber became the centerpiece of the Fab Five, a group of freshmen who changed basketball forever. Their swagger, baggy shorts, and black socks weren't just a style statement, they were a declaration of a new era. Webber's 2 years at Michigan were electric. He led the Wolverines to back-to-back NCAA championship game appearances and solidified himself as one of the best players in college basketball. Though Michigan fell short both times, Webber's skill and potential, undeniable. By the end of his sophomore year, he declared for the NBA Draft, ready to take the next step. Now, what makes the story different was that he was the first NBA player to be drafted in front of his hometown crowd. Now, what I mean by that is before 1992, the NBA Draft usually took place in New York, and there was never a player from New York drafted first overall. And it wasn't until 1980 that they started televising the draft live. So, in my opinion, that seemed like a pretty big deal to me. In 1993, the NBA Draft was held at the Palace of Auburn Hills, and that draft party in the parking lot had over 20,000 people show up between the inside and the outside. It was just as much going on either way, which was a record for the draft at the time. The anticipation for this night was sky high, and the Orlando Magic held the first pick for the second year in a row. With the crowd buzzing, NBA Commissioner David Stern stepped up to the podium and announced,
With the first pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic select Chris Webber from the University of Michigan.
At the time of the draft, I was only 7 years old, but I remember hearing the roar sound come from the TV when Chris Webber's name was announced, and how excited that my dad and my Uncle Mike was. Like, I could hear my dad like, "Oh, he did it, huh?" And my uncle, like, he did this loud clap, and he was just standing in front of the TV excited. And at that point, I knew this was a pretty big deal. But moments before the selection, the Magic agreed to a blockbuster trade.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to report a trade. Orlando has traded the draft rights to Chris Webber to Golden State in exchange for the draft rights to Anthony Hardaway and 3 future first-round draft picks.
Now, why did they trade him? I've heard Shaq over the years say that simply he just wanted Penny Hardaway. But as I did more research, I found out that that's not entirely true. The short story is that Orlando couldn't afford Chris Webber.
Oh, no, listen, I'm not even thinking straight. We're bringing in kids last week to look at the 11th and the 10th spot, you know, those kinds of players, and suddenly the whole world has turned upside down. Right now, the big job is our capologists. Bob Vanderwide and our capologists have a massive job ahead of them, believe me, because we went through a summer last year, the likes of which we've never seen, and lightning has struck twice. It's absolutely unbelievable.
What about the money situation? Are you concerned that they'll have enough money to pay for your services?
I'm not sure. I think if that was that big of a problem, they would have traded the pick or something like that. Hopefully we can work things out and just get moving forward.
Choosing Shaq as the #1 pick the year prior, they just didn't have any room in the salary cap. It was a much smaller market, one of the newer teams added to the NBA, and they just couldn't quite, honestly, afford him. Now, their picks were for 1996, 98, and 2000. And to fast forward a bit, the only player to really work out of those picks was Mike Miller, which was the 2000 pick. Webber's impact was immediately felt in the NBA. He became the Rookie of the Year. He made multiple All-Star teams, multiple All-NBA teams. And now look, of course, we all wanted to be like Mike, but in Detroit public schools in the 90s, we was looking at Chris too. My guy had commercials. He had his own shoes, covered video games. He had countless magazine covers, dated supermodels, and he was also dropping music.
Gangster, tell me how you do it. Yo, I do it with no doubt. Know it's gonna work out. Talk on the phone, but only if it's burnt out. Been with many hoes, but never been.
Whether it was leading the Kings to the brink of the NBA Finals or redefining what a power forward could do, Webber left a legacy as one of the most complete and influential players of his generation, ultimately landing him in the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2021.
To Detroit, what up, though? What up, though? Shout out 6 Mile, Evergreen, Finkel, Purity. What up, though?
Following his professional career, Webber spent 13 years as an analyst with TNT's Inside the NBA and running his foundation, the Chris Webber Foundation, which provides educational resources and scholarships to the underprivileged youth. Going from Detroit Country Day to the bright lights of the NBA courts in the Hall of Fame, Webber's story is one of pride for us here in Detroit. Just thinking again about that sound and that roar coming from the Palace through the TV screen, that still echoes as a reminder, at least for me, that greatness can start right here at home. Thanks for watching another episode of It Happened in Detroit. Please like, subscribe, and watch everything else I got going on in the network, man. Till next time, thanks for watching.